Hello and welcome into the Cubs on Deck podcast. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Greg Huss, and today I am joined by the Iowa Cubs broadcaster. Jason Kempf is joining for the second time, right? The first time was when you first got introduced into the organization. Now you're here towards the back half of the year. How's it going, Jason?
It's going well. How are you, Greg?
It's good. Good to have you on. Now I feel like you probably have a little bit more lay of the land on what's going on in the Cubs organization, and I guess probably in Des Moines as well than you did. I mean, because I think you had just moved out to Des Moines when I had you on the show earlier this year, right?
Yeah, I think I had been there for a week and a half, something like that. So everything was a bit of a whirlwind at the time, just trying to figure out who was who and what they look like. But yeah, I feel a little bit more comfortable now, and that's a good thing.
I was gonna say, what's it? But I guess to preface to introduce the episode here, we're gonna talk about all the prospects in Iowa. We're gonna dig into the big bats, the Johnny Long. Me and Brian got into it last week. We're gonna dig in a little bit deeper on Johnny Long and Moises Ballesteros, Owen Caissie, Kevin Alcantara, James Triantos, all the bats, and then also talk a little bit about the chaos that is the pitching staff over the course of this season for Iowa. We'll talk about the players for sure. But up at the top, I want to get into what you've been doing so far this season, Jason. What's it been like I guess my biggest question is what's it been like in AAA compared to you were at the single A level in Charleston before you came to Iowa? Is it different? How different is it between those two levels?
It's very different. It's minor league baseball, right? So you still have the off the field stuff, the promotions, and trying to do unique things in that regard. But I think on the field, and the biggest difference is also the maturity level of the players off the field. You're talking about a guy that is probably on average 26 years old, 27 years old, maybe married, compared to an 18 or 19-year-old that is for the first time playing baseball as a profession. And I think even over the last 5 to 6 years, especially since COVID, when they got rid of rookie ball, there are a lot of players at single A to start a year that probably shouldn't or wouldn't have been there certainly 6 or 7 years ago, that are now there trying to keep weight on throughout the course of a 100+ game season. That it's a real battle. They lack a little bit of that seasoning and the consistency that you would hope to see in professional baseball, where obviously in AAA, guy's been playing for 3 or 4 years professionally at the very least, and is in theory one step away from playing at the highest level. And we all know how good a baseball that is there. So it's learning how to do it day in and day out. I think the stadiums here are a little bit nicer, newer for the most part, a lot more amenities. And the other thing is you're in the downtown of big cities here, as opposed to Lynchburg, Virginia, and Kinston, North Carolina, and a few of the places down south in the Carolina League and even in the Midwest League, that just aren't the same in terms of things to do on an off day or around town during an afternoon before a game. It's you can tell it's a couple of steps closer to the big leagues.
I hadn't even considered it seems pretty obvious, like the size of the cities that you're playing in, but I hadn't put too much thought into that. Honestly, I think between Des Moines and playing in the Twin Cities up in St. Paul, Minneapolis, and you guys played down in Louisville or I like Toledo. You guys have played in Toledo once this season. That's probably the smallest city you guys have played in so far this year, right?
Yeah, so Omaha is not small, but we play their stadium and where the hotel is on the outskirts of Omaha in a town called Papillion. So that kind of feels like the smallest city. But yeah, Toledo, Columbus is a big city. We're right in downtown. Nashville is obviously a big city that is probably going to have an MLB team here in the relatively near future. You talk about Gwinnett, we go to Las Vegas. Louisville, like you mentioned, it's you're kind of in a metropolitan area for the most part, and a completely different environment than the lower levels of minor league baseball, where even Charleston is a relatively big city in single A, but it doesn't have that same downtown big city vibe.
What's been your favorite city to travel to in AAA?
Well, I think it's going to be Vegas after next week, everything I've heard. But at the moment, honestly, I really like Toledo. And it was unfortunate that we played there twice in April and May because it was still cold and rainy. But the cool part about it was it felt very big league in terms of the interest of the people and the businesses around the stadium. So Fifth Third Field is right in the middle of downtown, and they actually have, I think it's called Hensville, which is like a 2-block area with bars, and every bar has the Toledo Mud Hen schedule in the window. And before a game, it's busy. After a game, it's busy. There's a couple of bars attached to the stadium in right center field where you just feel like you're walking downtown for a big event. And on the weekend in the summer, they'll close down that entire block before a game. And it's just basically tailgating and getting ready. So I think we go there in July next year. And I'm excited to see what Toledo looks like when it's actually warm out.
That's pretty cool. I didn't realize they had that set up there. That's pretty
Yeah,
sweet.
they've been a Tigers affiliate for a long time, and Detroit's not all that far away. So it's a cool spot.
Yeah, I lived out in Columbus for about 4 years. People, I probably, I don't know if I've told the story, but I lived out in Columbus for about 4 years, and so I'd go to a lot of AAA games. They were the Guardians affiliate, still are, and that whole arena district downtown for the Columbus Clippers is always really cool. Right next to the I guess a block down from the NHL arena, a block down now from the new soccer MLS stadium that got built last year. Really cool arena atmosphere, I guess.
Yeah, I was there. I used to work in Dayton, so it was an hour away. We went up to Columbus during hockey season, actually, and caught a game there for the Blue Jackets. But unfortunately, this year, not unfortunately, we had the baby right before the trip to Columbus, so I missed that one. But I heard great things, and obviously it's one of those settings where you're looking out from the press box, and it's all the skyline of downtown, which is really the big league feel again that gives you sort of a different vibe.
Is there a food difference in AAA compared to Single A?
Yeah, that's well, in Single A, first of all, Myrtle Beach has the best menu item that I've found in minor league baseball, so I don't want to discredit that. They have the Chicago-style pizza burger, which is two small pizzas with it, like personal size pizzas with a burger in between. So I used to not eat for a day and then go eat that prior to a game. But for the most part in Single A, the spread pregame kind of went away from the press box. And so you would get a food voucher, and then with 30 minutes from the time the gates opened until your pregame show began, try and find something to eat. Whereas in AAA, for the most part, they have a nice spread in the press box. We did have wings in Louisville at 9 a.m. one day because we played at like 10:30, and for whatever reason, the pregame catering was like buffalo wings. So it was an odd breakfast that day, but you can't complain when it's free.
Breakfast of champions. Last thing I got on the differences between AAA and Single A. A lot more roster movement, right? I mean, you have obviously you're catering to the needs of the major league team, and you're doing that all throughout the system. But it's different when you're in AAA and you've got guys moving back and forth all the time. What's that like for you specifically, dealing with those changes to the roster on a daily basis, basically?
It is a world of difference in Single A and even up to Double A for the most part. It's guys who are deserving to be promoted, getting promoted after a month or so, and a lot of that happens on Sunday nights. So you have the off day on Monday to process the roster moves and guys that'll go down. And then the biggest transaction phase is after the draft, like this time when some of those guys started to show up and you had to move other guys on or figure out where they fit and release some guys. But here, like you mentioned, it's every day. And I think the biggest impact for me is, one, getting ready for a game, not necessarily knowing 3 hours before the game who's going to be pitching or who's going to be here, who's available off the bench. But then I handle the travel for our flights. So, for instance, we fly to Las Vegas on Monday, and we have 40 tickets, and you've got to have the full birth name. For every guy, you have to have the birthday right. And if they have a TSA, a known traveler number to help them get through the airport a little bit quicker, and it changes every day. So I'm constantly emailing our travel agent like, hey, these 3 guys I thought weren't going to be here. It turns out they will actually be here. Is this guy going to go with his family instead? Then we can cancel his ticket and get it for somebody else. And then you get to Las Vegas, and every move that happens there, you have to change it for the flight back home to Des Moines. So that's kind of the challenge. And it is every day. Now, we haven't flown since June when we went to Nashville. So we've had it easy here over the last month, but you send an initial list 2 months ahead of time to buy the tickets. And by the time the flight comes, about 5 of those guys are still actually going.
Yeah, that's wild, man. I hadn't considered too much of that. That's a wild experience, and I'm sure that you love every second of it, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the bus trips are easy. You just make sure there's 40 guys on the bus and we're all good.
I actually do have one more thing. What's it like having a Tommy Birch in the press box sitting there to your left?
So, well, that's a loaded question. I think, first of all, on a serious note, it's great that we have basically a daily beat writer. That's pretty rare. I think Cedar Rapids has one here in the state of Iowa, and Quad Cities had one for a long time. Steve Batterson passed away, a couple of years ago now, but it's very rare that you see a dedicated beat writer following a minor league team. And I think he does a great job and gets to know the guys and can share their stories, which is awesome. Off of that, like the professional side, Tommy, I know I actually brought it in here. The biggest accomplishment of his career is the Tommy Birch men's restroom that we put up near the bathroom right behind me this year, because he was talking on Twitter how if he was really that appreciated here, he would have something named after him. And so somebody in the office heard about that. And when I came back for the next homestand, that was next to the men's room, and he was pretty fired up about it.
That's absolutely incredible. I think he might have posted it first.
Oh, he did. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, right, that's perfect.
He told me on the air that was one of his proudest moments, possibly even going above the birth of his children and his marriage, because he said, honestly, he probably spends more time in that bathroom than with his family. So take that for what it's worth. But I mean, that's the Tommy experience day in and day out.
That is incredible. We joke and Tommy's just a great dude, but like, yeah, we've talked about it. We have a pretty nerdy 1060 West Discord channel that we get into the weeds as far as prospects go.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about it there many a time, how valuable it is for fans to have Tommy Birch covering the Iowa Cubs on a daily basis. We wish that we had that throughout the entire rest of the system through Knoxville and South Bend and Myrtle Beach, and understand that local newspapers don't. That's not normal to see that anymore. But holy cow, man, to have the Des Moines Register cover the Iowa Cubs on a daily basis is incredible, and have it be Tommy is terrific as well, obviously.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing in minor league baseball is if you're interested in that thing, it's kind of hard to find out what's going on for the most part. If you don't have a beat writer like that, I mean, the probables are the responsibility of the broadcaster, the media relations person a lot of times on the website, and those get put in there wrong or late, or some teams don't even bother to do it, and it's kind of hard to figure out what's happening here in the future. And if you don't have somebody doing those interviews, meeting people and finding out things, then it's kind of hard. He's helped me out a few times during a game where on the road, I can't get down to the clubhouse, and somehow he figures out why a guy came out of the game. And that's certainly helpful.
Yeah. All right, man, the main, we're going to get into the players. Like I said, I promise we will, but I'm curious about, you dealt with the kind of a unique trade deadline this season. And of kind of like the miscellaneous topics that I want to hear your opinions of, that may be the number one item, because the Iowa Cubs had all kinds of players between Owen Caissie and Kevin Alcantara and James Triantos. Those three guys especially were rumored in trade talks the entire year, dating back to last year, the year before. Like, they've been in trade talks a lot. Obviously, none of them were traded. Christian Franklin was the one player from the Iowa Cubs roster that was dealt away over to the Washington Nationals for Mike Soroka. But what was that, I guess, experience like for you and for the team as a whole, kind of having that cloud of potential trades looming over the roster for 2 weeks leading up to the deadline, pretty much?
Yeah, I think so. You're just sitting there waiting for something to happen. And I think that was true of the Cubs fan base as a whole. Everybody assumed, and I mean, this even goes back to March, right before the season started, when we're like, okay, we're going to have all of these top 10 prospects for the Cubs for a few months. And then that probably won't be the case anymore. And so you're waiting, and the trade deadline day is approaching. Now it's July 30th. Still, everybody is here. And like, well, maybe we're still going to have these same guys, but you still felt like there was some move coming the entire time. And there were some moves with prospects from lower in the farm system. And then Christian Franklin gets traded. I think that was the night before the deadline on the 30th. And you thought, okay, that might just be the first piece of things that are coming. And on that day, we played at night at 7 o'clock. So guys are here at 2 o'clock. The TV is on to MLB Network. Owen Caissie had his phone out. Johnny Long had his phone out. Everybody's just kind of sitting there. They've heard their names. You know, it's an era now where the players aren't clueless as to what's going on, and they're talking to their agents and trying to figure out if discussions are happening. So you saw guys down on the field start to come out for early work, and you're watching the clock tick down. Like, is something going to happen? I think Tommy got here at 10 a.m. that day just in case he could catch somebody leaving with their suitcase or hug watch. Tommy was on hug watch all week long. And, yeah, it ended up being incredibly uneventful. And you could sort of feel, you know, some guys maybe wanted to be traded. Some guys are probably happy that they weren't. But in the end, after that deadline had passed, you could feel sort of a breath of fresh air where everybody's like, all right, here's the deal for the next 3 months. Now let's finish out the season strong. And it kind of changed the where am I going to be playing in a week to, all right, I'm here. And now for Owen Caissie, you had to figure when he wasn't traded, he was going to get a shot to do what he's doing now at some point in the relatively near future. And I think he knew that and was, you know, a weight lifted off of him a little bit. Like, now I can just play baseball. I know I'm going to be a member of the Cubs at least for the remainder of the year.
What was it like, both from a baseball standpoint and from a morale standpoint, having Christian Franklin dealt away?
So it was sort of an awkward so we played a day game the night he got, or the night that he got traded. We had already played in the afternoon. So unfortunately, he was pretty much packed up and gone by the time the team arrived for the game the next night, because there was that longer break in between games, from a 1 o'clock game until a 7 o'clock the next night. I think he was a big part of the morale. He was the leadoff hitter for most of the year, aside from that brief stint of Matt Shaw back here in AAA. I think the impact on the field, it's a pretty close-knit group as well. Jonathon Long has talked a lot about sort of coming up through the farm system with this same group and having success along the way. I think Connor Noland maybe took it harder than anybody, being an Arkansas guy as well. He lost one of the Hogs, so he was probably a little bit more upset than anybody else. But I think, by and large, people knew that Christian Franklin is going to have a better chance maybe to be in the big leagues by the end of this year with the Nationals than he probably would be with the Cubs. So I think everybody's happy that he has that opportunity, and certainly a very well-liked guy, and I think a very underrated player here during his time in Iowa with all of the other names you mentioned. He just kind of went about his business and actually hit the farthest home run this year for the I-Cubs. You probably wouldn't anticipate that among names like Owen Caissie, Jonathon Long, and Moises Ballesteros. But I certainly wish him the best. Christian was great, the kind of guy that said your first name every time you came in the room, said hello, and you could feel that he genuinely cared about everybody that he talked to.
What's it been like having this front row seat to a roster full of top prospects? I mean, one of our topics we're going to hit on is that who is the player of the year. But let's start off with kind of generally speaking before getting into the specific players. What's it been like? I mean, you have this group of 5 guys that are top 10 prospects in the Cubs organization. What's it been like?
Well, it helps that they're all good guys, right? They're very approachable, and they're not people that think they're above anything else. So first and foremost, it's been a joy to be around them and watch them play, because they're really good at baseball, but they're also very insightful. They can talk about what they're going throughout a season and kind of communicate, here's what I've been working on, here's what I'm thinking about, and they've been very open about that. But it is awesome to come to the ballpark every day and know that you're seeing that group of guys who are going to be in the big leagues or already have been, and do everything very well at a consistent level. So I feel very fortunate in that regard. I mean, even Ben Cowles is a top 30 prospect. To watch him play defense every day is a lot of fun. Carlos Perez is not a prospect, but he's having an incredible year. There's always something to watch with the Iowa Cubs this year. Even if 3 or 4 guys have a day off, there's still 2 really good prospects that I think a lot of teams would be jealous to have in their lineup on a daily basis. So you see something special night in and night out with this group.
Let's talk about the combo of James Triantos and Kevin Alcantara, because both those guys it's been different, but you can kind of group them into the same bucket where they got off to slow starts early on in the season. Kevin Alcantara really turned things on in around June-ish is when he started to turn things on. James Triantos has turned things on a little bit later. The numbers aren't outrageously impressive, but I think he looks better than what the numbers are indicating with James Triantos. What has it been about those guys that have really changed things as the season's worn on?
Well, I think with Kevin Alcantara, it's almost the same storyline every year in a way that he starts out slow in the colder months, if you will, of the season. And then in June and July, he always seems to find another gear. And now trying to do that consistently is the question, because the big league season starts in March, right? So if you're going to be consistent at that level, then you have to find a way to come out of spring training and have better results early. And I think Marty Peavy, the ICUBS manager, says every time he's asked about Kevin Alcantara that at any given moment, he's the best player in the ballpark when he's on, when he's focused, and when he's playing like Kevin Alcantara can play. The problem is unlocking that on a daily basis. And I think he's a good kid. He's got some showmanship to his game. Everybody knows that. You're not called the Jaguar without some of that. But it's just being more consistent defensively. He made a really nice running catch over his head on the warning track in the gap last night. And I think what's improved in terms of the offensive aspect is driving the ball to right field and laying off sliders in the dirt, which has been his issue throughout his career. And pitchers know that, right? So they're throwing in breaking balls in the dirt once they get ahead. And until he lays off of those, he's going to have a tough time hitting consistently. But in the second half, and really starting in mid-June, he has been able to take more of those pitches, get into competitive at-bats, see better pitches, and then if he does get a pitch close to the zone away, is willing and able to drive the ball to right and still hit it over somebody's head. So I think that has been the key to his turnaround. And also being healthy. He's a guy that has been banged up. He's 6'6", very, slimly built. So the wear and tear of a season is going to have an impact. But I think talking to people, he's tried to play more banged up this year than he has in the past, where maybe in the past he would have said, all right, I would need a week or two off, and nobody questioned that. This year he's trying to play through that, which is a good sign. And then with James Triantos, he's hit everywhere throughout his entire career. And we all think of him as a 290 to 310 type of hitter. And he did get off to a slow start. And I know he was frustrated early in the year. He was banged up as well. He had that rehab stint in South Bend. And since he has come back, and especially in the month of August, he's looked like a new player where, again, he's driving the ball on a line from gap to gap. He's also played in the outfield. He made a great catch yesterday in left field, which was just his second game in left field as a professional. A jumping catch in which he crashed into the wall shortly after. He's playing a lot of center field. He's actually played second base less than he has any other position here over the last month or so. And I think that's exciting as well. If he has the versatility and he's hitting line drives and hitting almost 300 for the month of August, that's the guy that people expect James Triantos to be. And he is a good hitter. You knew eventually he was going to figure it out. It was just getting to that point where he felt good and was having that success defensively as well, where he could get it done. And again, with Christian Franklin being traded, he's now leading off. And I think that's been a nice adjustment for him as well.
Man, I can't even describe how valuable that is for him to be able to play left field, center field, second base, third base, playing right field as well. Like that's so incredibly valuable for him, because when we were talking about when we've had conversations about James Triantos over the past 3 years, it's always been about, the hit tool is really, really good. Will the power take a next step up? Will the defense be good enough at second base? And it's like, if he can pivot, I've always said that it's more likely that he is a decent enough defender at multiple positions rather than him being a plus defender at second base. You look at the major league roster and you have Nico Horner, who has that profile of the contact-oriented hitter, but he is like a gold glove caliber second baseman, right, and really a gold glove caliber shortstop if he got a long runway there as well. James Triantos wasn't going to be a gold glove caliber second baseman, in my opinion. And so, like, for him to have that value elsewhere, to be able to play center, left, right, second, third, like, that is super, super important for Triantos.
Yeah, and the other thing is more of the mentality even where he's kind of one of those bulldog type guys who knows he's good and like he's going to figure it out and find a way to make winning baseball plays. And that's one of the intangible things that you like so much about so many of these guys is they have that same mentality where I'm really good at this. I'm going to figure it out however I can to help the team win.
Yeah, and you mentioned with Kevin Alcantara too that ability to spit on sliders in the dirt, running out of the zone away from him is like so. I don't need Kevin Alcantara to hit bombs off of sliders every other at bat. Like that's not because he's good enough elsewhere that he doesn't need to do that. He just needs to not chase the sliders every time they're thrown to him, and so like
Yeah,
that's incredibly valuable there.
I think the one game where I was like, man, this is what people dream about from Kevin Alcantara is playing Indianapolis a few weeks ago. And Bubba Chandler just made his big league debut and certainly looked the part with 100-mile-an-hour fastballs, keeping big league hitters off balance. And Alcantara took him deep twice. He had given up 4 home runs all season coming into that game, and Alcantara got him twice, once to right field, once to left center. And I was like, okay, if you can do that against a guy like Bubba Chandler, then you can certainly do it against other righties who have a middling slider or just an average slider. So I think it certainly gave him confidence as well. But that's the idea, right? Is pitchers know where your weakness is. You've got to change what your weakness is or improve in it enough that they have to stay honest.
Man, you watch something like that against Bubba Chandler and you're like, "Oh, like he's good." Like that's no joke. It also helps that one other addition with Kevin Alcantara this year is he's back to absolutely mashing left-handed pitchers, which he had done earlier in his career. Last year was he was fine against lefties, but it wasn't like right now. I think this season he's got an OPS over 900 against left-handed pitchers, and so like that is incredibly important versus an OPS it's like 700. So like overall, if he can be that against lefties and just good, simply good, not great against righties, like there's a pretty damn valuable outfielder.
Yeah, and he can go track a ball down too.
Yeah.
But again, with a lefty, that's the thing. They're not going to throw a slider down and away, breaking away from him.
Yeah.
He's been better laying off of the back foot slider than he is the one down and outside. So yeah, he's against a lefty. It kind of plays into everything that he does well.
All right, let's talk about the three guys that are vying for the Cubs minor league hitter of the year award. Like I mentioned, Brian and I talked about it briefly. We dedicated like 5-10 minutes to it last week, but I want to get your thoughts on Moises Ballesteros, Owen Caissie, and Johnny Long. Obviously different cases for each of them, where Moises Ballesteros has been up a couple of very short stints with the major league roster. Owen Caissie now has been up for a little bit longer. Johnny Long has the most plate appearances of the bunch, and so the counting stats tend to go his way for a variety of different things. But all three dudes have just been like outrageously good this year. What's your take on this battle to the end?
It's about as good of a battle. I don't know if there's many organizations where you would have as tough of a time deciding with 3 guys who have primarily played for the same team, right? You may have that between trying to compare guys' numbers in the Carolina League to a guy in AAA, and that becomes a problem. But they've literally done it, batting one after another in the lineup for most of the season. You sent this to me ahead of time, and I've been thinking about it, and like I don't know how you choose. Now, the caveat is Ballesteros won it last year, so you feel like if you're trying to predict what the Cubs are going to do, he's probably not going to win it this year. And I don't think he would be my choice either. I love watching him hit. He's actually having a tough month of August, and for him, a tough month is hitting like 230 with 12 RBIs. So that's not a bad thing. But man, Owen Caissie and Jonathon Long, I would think it might be Jonathon Long only because Owen Caissie was hurt early in the year and got off to a semi-slow start. And so, again, his counting numbers, like you mentioned, aren't going to be as high or maybe as impressive. Obviously, the home runs are. But Johnny Long, he's in the middle of a long on-base streak. He could tie the franchise record this weekend as we take on Sugarland from the PCL. He's one shy of tying the franchise record for an on-base streak, which is 34. He's top 5 in walks. Christian Franklin actually leads the International League in walks. which he has taken over since he's gone to Rochester. He's top 10 in RBI. He had the most hits in the league for most of the year. For 1 8-hour stretch, Johnny Long led the league in batting average. And then in the second game of a doubleheader, he went 0 for 3 and lost it. But he's a guy that it's incredibly consistent. He went through like a 2-week relatively cool spell. But other than that, he's sitting at about a 315 clip for the entire season in the middle of the lineup, batting third or fourth on a day in and day out basis. So they're so different, though, in the way they put up numbers, and that's what's so much fun. It's like Ballesteros, the obvious comparison is like Luis Ariz, where he just puts the bat on the ball, and it seems to find a hole every single time. And the hitting coaches and Marty Peavy have said for Ballesteros, like other hitters want to know all this stuff about a pitcher. What does he throw in this count? They're like, all he needs to know is he right-handed or left-handed, and does he have a changeup? And he's going to go out and get 3 hits. And like, it's incredibly valuable for a guy his age, right? That just knows how to hit right away in professional baseball. On the other side, Owen Caissie hits the ball harder than anybody I've ever seen on a consistent basis in minor league baseball. So he's got the wow factor. But again, I think there's something to be said about Jonathon Long just consistently, like the tortoise and the hare, if you will. He would be the tortoise, which is not a bad thing. Just does his job quietly every day, and the numbers are going to look really great at the end of September.
I view these 3 guys, it's kind of just like a sliding scale of what they bring to the table. Like, they're all 3 really good hitters, but for like slightly different reasons, right? You have Owen Caissie on one side. It's like he just hits the crap out of the ball. The power is like no joke. Then you have Moises Ballesteros on the other side, where like he rolls out of bed in the morning, being able to slap the ball over the shortstop's head, but also like hits the ball. He's not a slap hitter. That's not what I mean. But like he can hit every single day. And then you have Johnny Long that's kind of in the middle, where like Johnny Long is hitting the ball really, really hard too. If you look at a lot of his exit velo numbers, they're not Owen Caissie, who's top like 10 in all of humanity in terms of exit velos, but like he's really high up there compared to the rest of the AAA level. But he also kind of brings that hit tool a little bit better than what Owen Caissie brings. Maybe not to the degree of Moises, but like you said, he led the league. He was up tops of the league in batting average and hits and all that good stuff. So like, it's kind of an interesting profile for each of them. What to you, like what makes Johnny Long so impressive at the plate? Is it just the combination of both that hit tool and the field to hit paired with, I guess, the power that he brings to the plate as well?
Yeah, and it's also just the discipline and the ability to not chase and know what a pitcher is trying to do to him. He had a great at bat last night. Well, he walked 3 times, but one of the walks, he was behind in the count, fouled off, I think 6 straight pitches, got to the 12th pitch in the at bat and took a slider an inch off the outside corner. Like, that is the typical Jonathon Long at bat, where you've got to come to him when he's going right and make a really good pitch in the parameters of the strike zone, or he's going to hit the ball very hard. He's just so calm as well. He's never rattled. He's never overly excited. He's a great interview, but you wouldn't know it going into a conversation with him, right? And that's just what makes him such a steady hitter as well, is that he has quick hands, but he knows what he's looking for. He has the ability to pick it up, right out of the pitcher's hand and know, this is a pitch I need to take. This is a pitch I can do damage on. And he's aggressive early in the count when he needs to be. And that's the other thing. There's a lot of baseball IQ there where, we have a ton of top prospects like we've talked about. The numbers overall here in Iowa this year are really good offensively. But I've said this a few times. You're not happy with the record for the team. It hasn't necessarily translated to wins. I know we're going to talk pitching it a little bit, but sometimes it feels like there are some empty calories, right? Where guys are racking up hits, but the runs aren't coming. The production's not coming. We're struggling with runners in scoring position. But Jonathon Long is kind of the antithesis of that he'll make the baseball play and give you what you need in a given situation.
Extra points for Johnny Long because he looks like a relatively normal looking dude, right? You look at Owen Caissie. Owen Caissie's 6'5". Like he looks like a Major League Baseball player. And not that Johnny Long does not, but he looks more like a normal human being. And then he goes out there and hits 340 or whatever it is. It's like that adds some extra points to his queue. You know?
Yeah, no, he kind of looks like the everyman, and that's the fun part about baseball. Like, if you saw these guys around the hotel, some of them, you would have no idea. You don't get that with the NFL or a guy like Aaron Judge or people like that. So yeah, it's just people that kind of look like your friends and family that go out there and do something at an incredible level.
Yeah. So it sounds like Johnny Long is your pick as of right now, right?
Yeah, but I want to send a note of support to the other two in case I see them in the clubhouse. So
well, yeah. I was gonna say I it's interesting, right? Like we talked about this last week. I made my pick. I honestly I don't remember who I picked. I think I might have picked Owen Caissie, but I'm not positive. And that's kind of the point with these guys is that it changes almost on a daily basis as to who's performing the best and who might have the leg up in the race for the minor league hitter of the year. Here's what I'll say as of right now. We're recording this on Saturday, so as of right now, I'll say that this season Owen Caissie has improved his like prospect stock in my eyes the most. Where like his ability to cut down on the whiff, cut down on the strikeouts has been maintaining the power has been huge in terms of how I view him as a potential major league player. Moises Ballesteros gets kind of a weird arrangement here, having won I think the last 2 years he's won the minor league player of the year award. So like for him to win 3 in a row, like he'd have to really put up some crazy numbers this last like month of the year. Yep. And I think Johnny Long is just like he is the Cubs minor league hitter of the year. Like what he has done this year, statistically proven that what he did last year in the second half of last year was no fluke. Like everything about what he's done, like he deserves to be the hitter of the year, in my opinion. So like as of today on Saturday, he's my pick to be the Cubs hitter of the year.
So we're sort of in agreement then.
For now. Check back tomorrow, yeah. Right?
Now, I think if Owen Caissie stays up with a big club as well, that might preclude him from putting up the numbers, and Johnny Long could kind of pull away here down the stretch.
Let's talk about the pitching because it's been wild this year, man. Like every year is crazy as far as AAA pitching because of the promotions and guys being sent up and down quite a bit throughout the season, and then like the mix of a whole bunch of veteran minor leaguers or veteran major leaguers that play and then get released or ask for their release or whatever it is. Like pitching staffs are always really weird in AAA. This year, it's been especially crazy overall, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that might even be an understatement. And I go back to the beginning of the year, and I'm trying not to forget anybody, but you looked at the rotation for the Iowa Cubs. It was Cade Horton, Chris Flexen, Jordan Wicks, Connor Noland, and Caleb Killian. So Horton's gone to the big leagues, and obviously he's going to be there for a long time. Chris Flexen should have been in the big leagues probably somewhere to start the year. Finally got there, had a ton of success out of the bullpen for the Cubs, and is back in the big leagues. Jordan Wicks has been up and down. He was hurt a little bit. He hasn't been able to stick in the big leagues yet this year, but it's also been a long time since he's actually pitched here for the Iowa Cubs. It's one of those guys that has bounced around back and forth, somewhat to the detriment of just consistency and being a creature of habit, as pitchers generally are. Caleb Killian was shut down for most of the year. He just got back now in a relief role, and he looks great in his first couple of outings. And Connor Noland has been sort of the consistent. Like, he's going to be there every single day and give you a pretty good shot at earning a win like he did on Friday night for us. He didn't get the win, but the I-Cubs earned the win, and he pitched incredibly well again. I think they're trying to cut his innings down, but those were the guys you looked at and you're like, this is a great rotation. And then if you would have told me Kenta Maeda was going to start 10 games for the Iowa Cubs this year, I would have told you were crazy. But that happened, and then they got him to the point where he was actually pitching pretty well. But as you mentioned, guys have upward mobility clauses and opt-outs at the beginning of months, and so he's now doing it for Scranton Wilkes-Barre with the Yankees. Spencer Turnbull is here, a veteran who had some success, obviously, with a no-hitter in Detroit back in the day. He's trying to start a resurgence. Zach Pop just showed up and has been really impressive out of the bullpen. It's crazy. And then the guy that I haven't figured out how he was in Double-A for the last 2 years, Antonio Santos, shows up and certainly looks the part as well. And the guy that was in the big leagues all the way back shortly after COVID. So it's crazy that he had an ERA around 2 in Double-A and never made his way up here.
Yeah, really happy for Antonio Santos to be back up in AAA because he's been really good not only this year, but he was really good in Double-A last year.
Yeah.
Really, really good. And so glad that he's up. Glad you mentioned the Connor Noland performance on Friday. That was on Friday night because that was arguably one of his best performances of the entire season. He had tied for his season high in whiffs, 16 swinging strikes for him on Friday night, which was tied for his season high. Really, really impressive from Connor Noland. Okay, so I'm gonna quiz you here. You've already thrown out a lot of the names here, but I looked it up, and the Iowa Cubs have had 20 as of Saturday afternoon. Iowa Cubs have had 26 different pitchers make a start this season, which is wild. That includes openers. Ethan Roberts made his first career start a couple nights ago. I'm not gonna make you name 26 guys. That's not what I'm gonna do. But 11 dudes have made at least 5 starts this year. So not only is it just a whole bunch of openers, but 11 guys have made at least 5 starts for the Iowa Cubs this year. Can you name all 11 guys here right now? And you've named quite a few already, but 11 dudes, 5 starts.
Cade Horton.
Yep. He's
Chris
made 6.
Flexen.
Chris Flexen has made, what did he make this year? He made 5 starts to Chris Flexen.
All right. Jordan Wicks.
Jordan Wicks made 13, or has made 13 up to now.
Connor Noland.
He has made 19.
I want Keegan Thompson either made 4 or 5 starts.
Yep, he's made 5. Yep,
okay.
He's made 5. Yep.
So there's Keegan. Caleb Killian started 1 game. So we got Kenta Maeda.
Yep, Kenta Maeda has made the 3rd most starts for the Iowa Cubs this year. 12 outings on the mound for Kenta Maeda, which is crazy.
I think Chris Kashmar is there.
Yeah, yep. 6 starts for Chris Kashmar.
Okay. So we got 4 left. And Will Sanders.
Will Sanders made 10. Yep.
Okay. So
we got 3 guys left.
We're missing 3 guys. This is going to be.
You mentioned one name already here. It's a former major league vet, I'd call him. Turnbull. Yep, he's made 5.
Okay, so we're missing 2 guys who made 5 starts for the Iowa Cubs this year.
One guy is now. If you're ready for a hint, I can give you one.
Yeah, that'll work.
One guy,
but I don't want to take a half hour for you here.
One guy's in Double-A right now.
Oh, Tommy Romero.
Tommy Romero's made 6. Yep.
Okay.
And then the other guy is kind of a. Honestly, I'll admit, and I apologize to this guy, but I would have never in a million years guessed that he made 6 starts for the Iowa Cubs this year. Kind of a piggyback type guy. Like he's not going to go.
Was it Peter Solomon?
It is Peter Solomon.
Okay.
Yeah, Peter Solomon's the last guy.
He's been gone for a little while now.
Yeah.
That's dang. I didn't think he made 5.
Yeah, made 5 starts this season. So 11 guys with 5 starts, which is like I'd have to go back and look at previous years, but I can't imagine that number is that high. Crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. And like we had a brief moment where we had incredible depth starting pitching wise, and that lasted about 2 weeks. So a tip of the cap to Tony Kagol and Andrew Betcher, the pitching coaches here, for managing their way through this season.
So we talked a little bit about Connor Noland, and Will Sanders is one of those guys who made 10 starts for the Iowa Cubs this year. When I look at both of those dudes and look at their numbers and look at the way in which they get outs with a huge repertoire of pitches, like they remind me a lot of each other. Do you get that vibe too with Will Sanders and Connor Noland?
Yeah, absolutely. It's and even Tommy Romero was sort of along the same lines. Obviously, he's been around a little bit longer. He doesn't throw quite as hard, but yeah, they're low 90s fastballs. And interestingly, they're both sort of relying on command. It's interesting because Connor Noland has these games where he walks 3 or 4, which kind of come out of nowhere, but he still manages to avoid barrels for the most part. And it's the same thing for Will. He got here and he kept us in every single game that he pitched. He was undefeated for a long time, 7-0 to start. And occasionally for those guys, they just don't have it. Their command is gone for a game and they're going to get hit hard, right? So they have to be sort of at the top of their game in order to avoid at this level getting hit hard. But they're those guys that you can't immediately say, okay, they're definitely the next guy to be called up. But you feel like they could go up there, certainly Connor Noland at this stage of his career, and be very competitive at the big league level. And I'm curious as to whether he gets that opportunity in the near future, or somebody else, if they don't protect him from the Rule 5 draft, if he gets a chance somewhere else. And I think Will Sanders is sort of building along that same line. Now, I think Will can get it up there a little bit higher and may later on in his career a little bit. He's not a young guy out of South Carolina, but still early in his professional career. But yeah, there are certainly some similarities there. Noland's cutter, really impressive as well this year. That's a pitch he can throw over and over again and avoid barrels.
And two really good dudes too. Both those guys.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know what? The other guy I should have guessed was Brandon Birdsell, but I think he only made 3 or 4 starts before.
Yeah, I think he was in his 4. I think he made 4. I think is what.
So that would have been my next guess. But
yeah. Unfortunate to see Brandon go down with his injury. Hopefully, we're hoping for, fingers crossed for good things, because I know that Brandon Birdsell, along with Connor Noland and a few other guys, are Rule 5 eligible this offseason. So kind of curious to see where the Cubs end up going with some of those guys. We'll dig into that this offseason about who might be added to the 40-man roster. But one more pitcher that I have on my list here that I want to talk about, and it's a requirement if you listen to this podcast. Riley Martin has been just so damn good, man. Like he is a really good pitcher.
Yeah, he's been outstanding, and I know that he's always had the ability to miss bats, but that has always been sort of watered down or countered by the fact that he's walked almost equally the same amount throughout his career. And this year, this is my first year seeing him day in and day out. But this year, he's been pretty much dominant from the beginning of the season. Like the strikeouts to hits comparison has been so in favor of the strikeouts. It's unbelievable. And he comes in, he works really quick. He throws a big curveball that he's throwing very hard this year, and he throws a fastball that has added a few ticks as well. And it's those 2 pitches. He'll mix in something else every once in a while, but not very often. And he just goes right after hitters, which has allowed him, I think, to stay out of those 3-ball counts and avoid the walks that have been sort of that bugaboo for him over the course of his career. But at one point, and I don't think this is the case at the moment, he was the only guy in our bullpen who had not pitched in the big leagues for a single game.
Wow.
And come to think of it, he may be in that same situation right now. But it's insane that, he has been as outstanding as he has been. Maybe the most consistent reliever, along with Ethan Roberts, from the start of the year until now. And I know a lot of people who have been his teammate here in Iowa or have coached him for several years in a row now are excited and have no doubt that he's going to get a shot in the big leagues and have some semblance of success.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the uptick in velo, because that's something that co-host Brian Smith pointed out on social media recently. That I think it's dating back to either he had like an outing on the 25th or the 31st, right around there, end of July. That all of a sudden Riley Martin started throwing the fastball a few ticks faster. It was like the 93 to 94 range up to like the 96, 97 range. And the curveball too, which is really, it's good to have obviously a fastball coming in a little bit hotter, but to have that curveball go from like an 82, 83 to an 85-ish mile an hour curveball makes a big difference. I went back, looked at that same range of time, and in that same range of time, when he saw the uptick in velo, he has been throwing way more strikes. Prior to that, again, I think it was the 25th of July. Prior to the 25th of July, he was throwing 60% strikes. After that, since then, he's been throwing 68% strikes, which 68% strikes is a really large number. And so, especially for giving a guy throwing harder and generating the number of swinging strikes that he does, just really critical for him moving forward.
Yeah, and he's not a lefty that gets knocked around by right-handed pitching either. He's actually had reverse splits for a bunch of his career, and I think he said, I want to get lefties out more consistently this year, and he's gotten everybody out. So it's a good thing to have. And the one thing about Riley, I've always found it funny. I don't think I ever see him with shoes on except when he is on the field. Like, the guy is always barefoot, and I don't know. It's just what he does, and then he comes out and doesn't let people hit the baseball.
That's incredible. That is, he's one with the field. There was a player that did, Tristan Cassis maybe for the Red Sox, would always walk around the field, barefoot. He's got to be one with the field. I love it.
There you go.
All right, man. We've talked about plenty of prospects here because there's plenty to talk about in Iowa. That has not always been the case in past years, man. Like, there's been past years where the Iowa Cubs roster is just loaded with only vets, no prospects there. There's plenty of them there now, but in order for these prospects to be successful, a lot of times they have to be lifted up and work with a lot of the vets that are on the roster too. I know that you mentioned briefly Carlos Perez and the crazy impressive season that he's having. Caleb Knight is another guy that I know you wanted to mention, and then Dixon Machado is a guy that's been in and out of the Cubs organization for the past few years. Talk a little bit about those dudes and what they've meant to the prospects at a AAA level.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this one because, like you mentioned, none of this happens without guys like them. And there are guys like them at their stage of their careers that could be upset and sort of standoffish about it. But these guys are incredible day in and day out. And it makes it so much more enjoyable for everybody else that, they still have the love for the game and the ability to know that, look, I'm maybe not the most likely guy to get recalled and be selected and go back to the big leagues, but I can help somebody else get there and help out their career. And so let's start with Carlos Perez. First of all, he's a veteran. He's a great guy. He's been called a great teammate with all of the changes we've had in the pitching staff. He's the consistent that has helped everybody work through things. He's throwing the heck out of the baseball behind the plate as well. I mean, he has been outstanding defensively, which I'm not sure anybody knew to expect that 100% when he got here at the age of 34. But he's hit 21 home runs. He's fourth in the league in OPS. That's a 20-team league with a bunch of hitters cycling through. He's been great from the beginning. And he's also, I think if they do put the ABS system in the big leagues next year, which we all expect they will, the guy is literally unmatched in terms of challenging pitches behind the plate. Like, he went 4 for 4 the other night with balls that were just clipping the outside corner to help out relievers. Instead of a 3-2 count, it's a strikeout. Like, he's been outstanding. And a guy that, after we faced Rich Hill earlier this year, he said, maybe I can play for 5 or 6 more years, even though I'm 34. Now, that's a little bit tougher to do as a catcher, but he's kind of been reinvigorated by facing a guy who was 7 years older than him, 10 years older than him. Dixon is one of the best people, again, that you'll ever meet in baseball. As you mentioned, he's had a pretty good run in the big leagues, and he's also been an Iowa Cub basically every other year for the last 5 years or so. Ben Cowles is a guy that he's kind of taken, shown, whether it's actually individually or just those guys watching him do his work on a day in, day out basis. Hayden Cantrell, James Triantos, the younger infielders, just watch him go about his business and get the job done day in and day out. He plays second, he plays short, plays third base. I think he would play anywhere if you put him out there. And he actually told me, this is coming from a guy in his 30s, right, who might be on the backside of his career. He pulled his hamstring earlier this year and never went on the injured list. And he played hurt for a while. The numbers weren't great. And he was a little bit frustrated, but he's like, I would rather play hurt than not play at all. And this is a guy who's been to the big leagues and is going to get paid either way. And he's like, I just want to play. It doesn't matter if I look bad, if I can help the team win, just let me play baseball. And I thought that was really cool. And then finally, Caleb Knight is probably the most beloved person, along with Darius Hill, who just got released, in the Iowa Cubs clubhouse. The guy, whenever he plays, has an impactful swing every single night he's in the lineup, right? A guy from the University of Virginia. He's been a bullpen catcher for a lot of the season when he's on the development list. Every time he plays, he shaves his beard, comes out with a mustache, and hits a home run. It's 5 of his 6 hits this year have gone for extra bases. And you might say, oh, the guy has 6 hits, but he's playing once every 4 weeks. Like, think about facing guys who have been in the big leagues pitching wise recently once every 4 weeks and having your timing down and the ability to go behind the plate and catch a decent game when you haven't seen game action in a month. Like, Ethan Roberts was talking about how none of this is possible without Caleb Knight. The guys just love him. And every time he hits the ball, like, the dugout, doesn't matter what the score is, the dugout reaction is outstanding. And I think every team has one of those guys, and he's kind of the heart and soul of the Iowa Cubs. So without him, it would be a lot more depressing of a place. AAA is tough, and you need people like that.
Is he the guy you point out as definitely the future coach on the as far as players go?
Yeah, 100%. I think the Cubs will do everything possible as well to keep him in the organization as long as they can in some aspect or another.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with. I mean, Caleb Knight's in AAA, but last year he bounced around. Like, he was in AA, he was in AAA. I think he was in High A a little bit as well. But like those guys are just incredibly valuable. And when an organization like the Cubs trusts Caleb Knight to work with the pitching staff, to work with young guys, to work with guys at different levels, like that's so incredibly valuable. Even if you're not posting an 800 OPS on a daily basis, you know.
Yeah, I felt terrible the other day. Did you see when Parker Chavers came into pitch?
No, I didn't get to. No, I didn't in the first inning, right? I didn't get a
So
chance to
last
watch that.
week, Will Sanders had thrown 33 pitches in the first inning. They're not going to let a guy go over 35. So instead of burning him for the game, Marty Peavy puts Parker Chavers on the mound, Will Sanders in left field to finish the inning, and then brings Will back to the mound for the next three. In doing so, you keep your bullpen from having to take over in the first, but you lose your DH. So Caleb Knight was getting a start, never got to bat because it happened in the top of the first. And then Will Sanders came to the plate with a combined 5 runners on, and they didn't let him swing the bat. So he struck out twice. And then Tom Cosgrove out of the bullpen got an at bat, fouled one off, and also struck out. So it's crazy day in and day out, but you feel bad when, he gets that shot in the lineup and then without any fault of his own, never actually gets a chance to bat.
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, the fact that he was able to take it like a champ is impressive in itself. Any other players that you want to hit on before we wrap this thing up?
I should mention Porter Hodge looks great again. It was rough at first when he came back and was rehabbing the injury and obviously went back to the big leagues for that moment before being added to the official Iowa Cubs roster. But he hasn't allowed a run yet in August. The strikeouts are climbing. He's walked a few too many yet, but he's also a young guy that, has been a big arm in the bullpen in the big leagues not too long ago. So I think the reports there are certainly positive and trending in the right direction, which is going to be really good long term, whether this year or next for the Chicago Cubs. But yeah, Ben Cowles is starting to play. I think his glove is ready for the big leagues. They're just trying to get him to hit the ball to the other field a little bit more, but that's a guy to keep an eye on over the next year and a half.
Luke Little's really good at baseball, huh?
Yeah, Luke Little, and I know his velocity with the fastball isn't where he wants it to be yet. He would prefer to be 95, 96. He made some tweaks in spring training, and it's at 92, 93 most of the time. We got to see him in the big leagues in that Milwaukee series. But boy, do AAA hitters not enjoy hitting against Luke Little. I mean, it is coming from a tough angle. It's the fastball and the sweeper, and man, he just throws the ball in a way that makes it incredibly hard to hit.
Man, Luke Little gets such a bad rep as far as fans just associate Luke Little a lot of times with this guy who throws 97, can't find the zone. Because he had some stretches where he was not finding the zone when he was called up to Chicago, and that's the experience of Luke Little, right? Like that's what I think Luke Little is. But like Luke Little right now is not that Luke Little of 2 years ago. Like they're not the same pitcher. And not to mention that he's actually gotten really good results in the major leagues over the course of his career. If you look at his like career numbers in the majors, pretty damn good for a small sample size, obviously. So I don't know. I'm a big Luke Little fan. I think that he's a really good pitcher, and I hope that he earns the trust of the major league coaching staff to get some more run out of the bullpen up there.
Yeah, obviously that most recent outing, the people are going to say he threw 9 straight pitches out of the zone. But if you actually watched, I mean, 3 of those clipped the zone, a couple were just off the plate, but he also came out for the next inning, and the heart of the lineup couldn't square him up. He struck him out. So
yes, he did not fold
there, and you can't. It's such a small. Like if you're in the big leagues for a long time, you have bad games. Everybody has. Daniel Palencia will have a bad game, but he's there all year and he has more success. I don't think you can judge a guy who comes up from the minor leagues, may not have pitched in a week, and is in there in a game against the best team in baseball at the time and have any overriding umbrella statements about that guy. I mean, I talked to Ethan Roberts about this. He was pitching in the minor leagues. It was a week after he got called up, and all of a sudden he's facing the heart of the Dodgers order in LA, and you're like, I don't necessarily have a feel for everything yet because I haven't thrown it in a game in a while. And here's Ohtani and Betts. So good luck.
Yeah, I mean, while I'm on my soapbox here about guys getting a fair shake, Jordan Wicks is another one of those guys. You mentioned it earlier, like him being tossed back and forth between Chicago and Iowa, and man, like it's how he's been used. It's how often or not often he's been used. It cannot be easy for creatures of habit, which starting pitchers especially are. And Jordan Wicks has been a starting pitcher his entire life up until this year, being used as a piggybacker or as a single or multi-inning reliever, and then back down to AAA as a start. Like that's got to be so difficult on him. And like I'm still a big believer in Jordan Wicks, the pitcher.
I am too, and he is borderline unhittable at times when he's in that every 4 or 5 day starting rotation type of cycle. It's kind of like if you had a guy, what they use him for in the big leagues, right, coming out of the bullpen is not what he's comfortable with, as you've mentioned. And like I get it, you're paid to get outs, so you have to get outs at some point. But like if you have a shooting guard, he's a guard, but you ask him to take over the point guard duties now, it's not going to be pretty all the time. And it's not what he's been working on and training for all year and throughout his career. So I think until you see him getting regular starts in the big leagues, and I actually thought he was another guy that could have been traded at the deadline because I'm sure somebody would see value in a former first-round pick who is the ability to be dominant and untouchable at times. But, I hope he gets his shot consistently at some point. And it would just be nice to see him even here in Iowa starting each week and to see what the final result is.
I like that shooting guard, point guard comparison. That's pretty good.
I don't know where that came from, but every once in a while I say something that sounds decent.
All right, man. Where can we watch the Iowa Cubs? Where can we listen to you? Where can we find out what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I think the easiest way nowadays, if you have MLB TV, we are, if you choose the Cubs as your favorite team, all the minor league games show up there for you on a nightly basis. The audio stream is on Hope 940 here in the Des Moines area. It stretches into parts of the Midwest as well. That's 940 a.m. You can always catch the broadcast at iowacubs.com. And we have one more game on marquee in our next homestand on September 6th against Omaha. Those are fun. We've had a whole bunch of them this year. And it's a pretty cool experience and opportunity for somebody calling minor league baseball.
Jason, thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. Always good to get the broadcaster's perspective of some of these players. Everybody out there listening, you can find us on anywhere where you listen to podcasts. You can check us out on YouTube. If you want to watch on YouTube, give us a like, give us a comment below. Let us know who's really caught your eye. Let us know who you think the minor league player of the year should be in the comments on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for listening. As always, we'll be back in your ear in one short week. Thanks, guys.